thank you very much for taking time from your busy schedule to come here. And I'm very curious about the central role of fire or Agni in Hindu way of life. Can you throw some light on this?
The word fire is referred to in Hinduism as Agni, which is introducing the element of divinity to fire. So Agni has been the manifestation of power or Shakti that human beings observe first time on earth. Now, the element of fire that the human being saw was from forest fire. Lightning. When it struck, we saw fire coming out from in the jungle. That was the emblem that he had. And then gradually he adapted fire in his normal way of life, for instance.
So where did this connection between ordinary fire, as you say, probably forest fire, and divine come in? Where did they connect together?
The element of divinity came from sky, anything coming from sky in form of lightning. And the burning effect, you see, what happened, human being always were looking for a God that he could see. Now God, as he saw or visualized, was basically imaginary. But here was a force that he could see, that was all consuming, that was helping him in keeping warm, and was very akin to sun. So the element of warmth, light, heat, all translated into fire. That's how the element of fire came into Hinduism.
So Hindus also believed in the 5 elements, of which fire was one of them?
Now that is very correct. The 5 elements of the body, and that I was going to refer later on, but now that you have mentioned, is this body consists of 5 elements. Panch tattva hai adam sharira, Kshitijal pavak gagana samira, which translated into Kshiti, earth, Jal, which is water, Pavak, which is Agni, Gagan, which is sky, ether, and Samira, which is air. Of all these elements, fire is the one that is direct, it is manifested. As such, fire becomes the central deity, and that is the reason why in Rig Veda, which is the most ancient of our scriptures, the first prayer, the hymns, are referred to or in praise of fire. Now all other gods, Indra included, have only 3 offerings, but for fire it is 4. So even in this hierarchy, fire is higher than Indra, though of course Indra being the ruler, he somehow dominated, but certainly fire was no second. It was almost parallel.
So fire, now let's agree that fire adopted a very central place in Hindu rituals and all the belief system.
Yeah.
When did the connection between the fire and divine come in? How did it start by Hindus?
Now, also in Rig Veda, it refers, when oblation is offered, when the devotee offers things to fire, that goes directly to heaven. He sees this rise. So to a simple mind, it is a messenger between man and God. And that's how it is also adapted in all the different rituals that we have. For instance, in Hinduism, as in many other religions, it is very essential to have an offspring, a progeny, for the simple fact that that's how his name carries on. Otherwise, with his death, he does not exist anymore, or at least so we think. So in order to gain this child or son, yajna was performed. The very first evidence, or maybe one of the things that we know, is when Raja Dasharath, when he was advanced in age, he wanted sons. He had no sons. So he performed a yajna, out of which Agni appeared, fire god appeared, and blessed that the king should have, that the queens should partake of this kheer or rice pudding.
Rice pudding, yes.
Yes. Out of which then the 4 sons were born to King Dashrath.
So this way Lord Agni also became a means to get direct blessings from the sun. So you give some sacrifice or some offering and you get that. But isn't Agni also involved in Mahabharata somewhere where Lord Agni or the blessings of Lord Agni were invoked by another king?
Agni's importance I was going to follow up gradually, if I may come to this subject later on. I was speaking of Hindu way of life, in that the second sequence was in all these 4 ashramas. I've talked about pre-birth, when you are blessed with a child. As a follow-up, or the second stage, after the birth, after 6 days, the Shashti, which is a very important ceremony, is performed, in which fire is invoked again. The third stage is Vidyaram, when he comes of age, Yagupavit, which is like equivalent to Bar Mitzvah in Judaism, when he starts understanding the elements of religion. This sacred ceremony is performed. Fire plays a very important role, the greatest role that you can think of in this ceremony. The third is Vidyarambha, when he goes to the Gurukul, to the Gurus for his education, these Vedas, studies of the Vedas. Here, Yajna is performed. Not only that, it is a daily ritual at the Gurukul, when the Guru or the Acharya sits with the pupils and performs this Yajna or home early in the morning.
At the beginning of
At the beginning of
the
the morning, yes. That's the first element that he performs. The follow-up of this one, this is the second stage, which is Brahmacharya. After completion of his education, he returns home and is ready to enter into Grihastha ashram, which is marriage. Here, it's very important that apart from the relatives of both sides, friends, you need a witness as God. And there's no better God to be witness or to be the presence felt than Lord Agni.
Agni, yes.
So Agni is there as a witness to marriage, and all the vows are taken in front of Agni. It is supposed to be very sacred and considered the most important element of a Hindu marriage, fire.
So you have created a picture of Lord Agni or fire being continuous presence in the life of a person all through, ever since the child is born or even before that, and throughout the student years and even for the wedding.
Now to come to the final stage, which is Antyeshti Kriya. Now I have referred to son being the important progeny, and the purpose of the son is that when a person dies, he gives the first fire to the body. In this particular ceremony, fire is ignited and put in the mouth of the dead, and then on the whole pyre is lit. Thus, the 5 elements of this which the body consists of is now reduced or brought back. All the 5 elements are dispersed in nature. They all go or have a place now. They all merge with nature. So it's not only dust to dust, which is only one element, but all the other 5 elements are also dispersed in the proper way. And that's how the human body ends.
So it is a kind of completion of
It
the
is a
cycle.
completion of the
yes.
cycle. You start with 5 cycles, 5 elements, and you end in 5 elements.
So this way fire has become extremely useful in terms of recycling of the human body.
That's right.
Yes.
That's
Now, isn't it true that besides Hindus, there were some other cultures, and you referred to it in the beginning, they also used fire, like because Hindus actually are descendants from Aryans. Could you tell us a bit about how the concept of fire not only came to Hindus but also in other parts of the world?
Now there is a close link between Indo-Iranian. Zoroastrians were the first, or the direct link, who respected fire. Now they deified, and to them fire was all has the same importance as Hindus have. In fact, Ahur Mazda, which is the word for God in Zoroastrian religion, they respect fire, and fire is worshipped. In fact, they say fire is a witness to them. The holy fire that they carried with them when they came out of Iran, that was around 7th century, when they had to leave their country. They brought this holy fire with them and came to India. India gave them shelter and asked them to be free, to freely practice their religion. And this is what the fire is about to them. In their weddings, in their sacred
temples.
temple,
Yes, yes.
fire temple, fire is the most important deity that they have.
Now, I appreciate how you have developed this whole theme of fire in Hinduism, but isn't it true Hindus also had Agni Ban or some kind of use of fire for destructive purposes?
Ram and Ravan, when they were fighting, both had this Amogh Astra, and Agni Ban was one of the things that they were using to attack. And when Ram used that was only probably Brahmastra, and that dropped fire on the enemy side. Speaking of modern days, probably it was equivalent to your atomic bomb or nuclear bomb, because there was no respite. Once it left, it could not be called back.
And isn't the same fire now was used, or fire was also used by Sita in another context?
This is a view, or this is also mentioned, that actually Sita did not go with Ravan. She entered into earth, and fire gave her protection. And thus, when Ram wanted a test, that what is the proof that you are not defiled, Sita entered fire as a mark of purification, and she appeared again from the fire unharmed, unburnt, which was a symbol or a confirmation that Sita was pure, she was not defiled. Another very interesting reference in this context is when Holika, offered to go to fire with Prahlad because
Yes,
she had
that's
this
right.
cloak.
Yes.
The air or the wind god helped, and she lost this wrap, and it wrapped around Prahlad. So whereas Prahlad was not burnt,
She was
was reduced to ashes.
Thank you, Dr. Dutt. Thank you for giving a developmental description of how Agni or fire is used in Hindu mythology and even Hindu way of life. And so I thank you very much and for developing this whole use of Agni by Hindus for the millennium. And I really thank you so much for coming, taking time to come to the studios, and hopefully we will meet again in another interview in which you will throw light on some other aspects of Hinduism. Thank you.
Thank you very much.